Aloha everybody, welcome back to the Kaiwaza channel. It's me, Kaiwaza, aka John Charles, here with you today. It's time for part 2 of our Q&A video series. I asked everybody who wanted to submit any questions they wanted to ask about. Got quite a few, as you can see here, and we're gonna dig right in, and I'm just gonna go for it and answer some more of your questions from the Q&A in random order. Have you ever been stung by a jellyfish? Yes, I have. Although surprisingly, not in Hawaii. I have not. I have been stung by a jellyfish in South Carolina at the Grand Strand when I was younger. I used to live in South Carolina, and we would go to the beach every summer several times. And yeah, when I was pretty young in junior high school, I'd say I was stung bad. It was very dramatic. My brother and I were both stung, and my brother, who was 3 years older, was kind of calm about it, and I was traumatized and like, what? Like, it really hurt, yeah. But I got over it, you know, and the second time it wasn't such a big deal. They have a lot more jellyfish in the summertime in South Carolina at the beaches than they do here in Hawaii, because South Carolina, a lot of people don't realize this or know this, but the Gulf Stream actually goes right along the Atlantic coast there for a while, and I think it veers off somewhere in North Carolina, but in South Carolina it's still very much the Gulf Stream. So the water gets really, really, really warm in the summer, and lots of jellyfish come in. In Hawaii, we really only get jellyfish once a month. It's like 2 days after the full moon, or the night after the full moon. Every month we get them for a few days. But even so, I've swam plenty of times here when they're here, and I've never seen one or been bitten by one here, never. Okay, next question. What's a famous Hawaiian tourist destination you have not been to? Okay, I can actually think of, I mean, I have been to quite a few. I'm gonna say there's 2. I have never been to Doris Duke's house called Shangri-La, which is kind of something that a lot of people here do. Beautiful, beautiful house full of all kinds of artwork and design and whatever from, I think, the 30s. A lot of people do that. I have not been to. I would love to. I just haven't been to it yet. And the other thing, oh, you know, there's actually a couple too. I've never been to Dole Plantation, which is in the middle of this island, and they have like a pineapple maze thing you can walk through, and you can do like, I guess like tours of the plantation or whatever, but yeah, I have never done that, and I should. I've also, this may surprise some people, never been to the water park. I forget what it's even called. Hawaiian Adventures Water Park. It's kind of over on the other side of the island, and I haven't been there. The lazy river is what I would do. I would be in like a lazy river thing all day, and y'all come on and do all those crazy things. I mean, I would enjoy that too, but I could just be happy to just sit in a lazy river for like 3 hours while everybody goes and does other things. So yeah, there are a few things I haven't done. Otherwise, I think I've done everything. Next question. Is it possible to live in Waikiki on a small pension of $4,000 a month? It's a very specific question. I would say to you, I mean, you'd have to do the math, but yes, I would say yes. It's not that easy. I mean, your rent, it depends on where you're staying, but if you're gonna stay in, like me, in a small, you know, tenement brick style apartment building, an old 1950s or 60s building, nothing fancy, no swimming pool, nothing like that. My rent's just over $1,000, and that's a tad on the low side, although I think right now things are a little bit lower for people that could actually pay the rent. So that gives you an idea. I mean, your food and groceries are going to be very expensive too. I think unless you figure out, you shop in Chinatown and you figure out the cheap places to go, and what the good deals are. And also, I don't have a car. All the time I've lived in Hawaii, I've never had a car here because I just feel like it's a big expense. Parking you have to pay for most everywhere. Parking in an apartment building you quite often have to pay for, and insurance and all of that. And I just find that Honolulu has a really good bus mass transit system, and that works just fine, and I use that all the time. And if I need to or buy too much stuff or whatever, you just call an Uber when you need one, and that isn't that much. Uber, Lyft, or taxi, whatever, and then just take the public conveyance. So I think on $4,000 a month, yeah, I think you can do it, but you do have to be economical and be careful where you shop for your groceries. And if you like thrift shopping like I do, that's all the better, because then you can get clothes and stuff much cheaper. Okay, another question. Okay, three favorite record albums of all time. Wow. I'm gonna say that I'm gonna stop the video and I will pull them out and show you. Off the top of my head, what would be my three favorites of all time? And rather than overanalyze that, because I certainly could, in many ways, I just decided, I thought, well, what three records do you find yourself coming back to and playing the most on their own? Not like in some kind of a program or mixing things up. It's like that you just put on your headsets, you pull up that record or the files of that record, and you actually just listen to songs from that record over and over again. There are definitely records that I do go back to that I've had for years, that I go back to that record over and over and over and over again. And these three are probably way above everybody else's as far as often as I go back and listen to them. This one is kind of, I'm almost embarrassed to say, but it is a budget label record. Luke Leilani and the Royal Hawaiians, Hawaiian Paradise, and there's several different versions of this with different titles and different whatever, because it's a budget label. But this particular set with this sort of rock and steel guitar on it, it just gives me a lot of joy. It makes me happy every time I listen to it. Plus, it also brings back a lot of memories of my childhood, because this record I knew of very young, and my grandfather had different copies of this record. I had different copies of this record. And yeah, it's just a lot of memories all the way around. And today, to this day, I will play selections from this album on my headsets quite often. Second one, also, Malakova and the Trade Winds, Hawaiian Guitar. I like their other record too, called Hawaii Guitars and Ukuleles, but if I had to pick, this would be the one that I probably come back to more often. Not one, not two, three steel guitars. It's probably Billy Muir, I think. Absolutely one of the best versions of Hawaiian War Chant of all time. I love My Little Grass Shack. I love all the fast songs on here. Also, like Magic Island is so beautiful. This record, I love it. Again, with headsets, I'll come back and play this record over and over and over again. I never get tired of it. And thirdly, Mauna Loa Islanders, Music of the Islands, one of the most beautiful covers of all records, I should say, and one of the most beautiful albums. Love the production on this. This also has not one, not two, three steel guitars. Don't know who they are. Don't know. But I recognize some of them from other recordings, but I don't know who's on steel. Beautiful arrangements. The production's so good. It has that sort of distant, far away, exotic feeling to it. Love the arrangements. Again, Little Grass Shack is great. Kakai Americana Kakai, Hawaiian Hospitality, Huki Lau, Little Brown Gal, Muna Waikiki. There's so many songs. Muna Manakora. I mean, I love everything on this album, and I play it again over and over and over again. So those would be really my three favorite records of all time. And I'm not gonna say they're like the best Hawaiian records of all time, or they're the most relevant. They certainly are not the most relevant of all time, but just for me, what I go back and listen to over and over and over again, those three are probably markedly above everything else. Now, all right, let's do one more question today. All right. How do I protect my records from warping in the heat? I don't, because they're not in the heat and they don't warp. I mean, it's not that hot in our apartment. I mean, it's the tropics, whatever, but the temperature's like in the 80s, and they're not in the sun or anything. They're in record racks. Well, I do put them in racks. I mean, they're in, horizontal position, and tightly enough packed that they're not super loose, so they don't have the opportunity to kind of warp. I mean, if they're a little tighter, it's more gonna keep them. But I don't really have any problem with warping. I never have here, so I don't really protect them from warping. Okay, that's it for now. Plenty more questions to go. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and please comment if you have any comments on this. And we will see you the next go round.